In every narcissistic relationship, there is a critical turning point, not a loud argument or a dramatic confrontation. A quiet, subtle moment. It is the moment they realize you see them. And I don't just mean you see their bad behavior. You see the deep, hidden insecurity they've spent their entire lives trying to cover up. You are no longer fooled by the charming performance or the impressive facade they show the world. At that moment, the entire dynamic shifts 180 degrees. Your eyes, once a source of validation for them, suddenly become a mirror. And that mirror reflects a truth they cannot bear to look at. When this happens, the dynamics don't simply change, they undergo a violent transformation. The game you unknowingly joined ends, and a war you never wanted begins. Their carefully constructed world, built on control and external validation, begins to tremble. The fear of this exposure is primitive, because to be truly seen is to risk psychological annihilation. What follows is not a random series of emotional outbursts. It is a predictable, strategic, and often ruthless psychological war plan. A set of tactics designed not only to regain control, but also to punish you for the unforgivable act of seeing them. To understand the narcissist's reaction to being exposed, we must first ask, do they know who they are? Do they understand that they are narcissistic, difficult, and deeply insecure? Seeing them merely as the villain ignores the core and dangerous nature of their psychological structure. Their problem is not just a lack of awareness, it is a powerful, active, lifelong project of denial. The narcissist has built thick walls to protect themselves from the truth of their own deception and fragility. They have surrounded themselves with people who will not challenge them and created complex distractions to keep their consciousness away from the center. They may superficially see the consequences of their behavior. They may see that their outbursts make people withdraw. But where they interpret this data is where the deep distortion lies. Their psychological immune system, built entirely around avoiding shame, activates immediately. Their primary defense is rationalization. They justify their behavior as a necessary reaction to your mistakes. Their anger wasn't a loss of control, it was a justified response to your disrespect. Their manipulation wasn't deceit. It was the smartest way to manage your irrational emotions. They build a strict narrative in which they are always on the righteous side. This isn't just a lie they tell you. It's a story they must believe to keep their fragile ego intact. Then comes projection, the act of taking their own unacceptable traits and seeing them in you. They're not the insecure one. You are. They're not the manipulator. You are the one playing games. And beneath all of this lies a nearly magical sense of entitlement. A belief that normal social rules simply do not apply to them. In their mind, their needs matter far more than anyone else's. You are not reflecting their behavior back at them. You are reflecting the unbearable shame that fuels that behavior. And this, to the narcissist, is an act of aggression that they can never tolerate. Your calm observation becomes a threat to the entire structural integrity of their psychic fortress. If the journey you're on overlaps with this harsh reality, you need to know something. The moment you finally understand the truth is also the moment you are in the greatest danger. To understand this paradox, you must understand the nature of the game you've been in, and the silent act of transformation you perform when you wake up inside it. A narcissistic attachment is not a partnership. It is a psychic ecosystem with them at the center. You were a function, the primary source of order. The steady hand, the gentle voice. You were the narcissist's ideal mirror. The unwritten agreement that you sacrifice your reality for their stability is the foundation of their world. Your awareness is the announcement that the agreement is no longer valid. This realization is the collapse of cognitive dissonance, that painful mental state of holding two conflicting realities at once. During this period, your visible changes are subtle, nearly invisible to an outsider. But for the narcissist, they are seismic. You stop taking the bait. The passive-aggressive comments that once dragged you into a defensive spiral now meet with silence. You begin to practice the art of the gray rock, flattening your emotional landscape until it becomes as plain and unresponsive as a stone. You stop giving them shiny surfaces in which they can see their own reflection. A narcissist senses your transformation. They track whether your energy is positive or negative. Their nourishment is the power you feel when you get angry. Their control peaks when you cry. But when you become calm, a void forms where their fuel once was, and that void terrifies them. The awakening of the empath is a profound victory, but it is not one you can celebrate openly. Because the moment the narcissist realizes you truly recognize them, they shift from psychological manipulation to a strategy of domination and punishment. This is the dark art of psychological manipulation. It is no longer a simple tool of deception. It becomes a systematic strategy designed to colonize your consciousness. The ultimate goal: to turn your mind into an unreliable narrator of your own life. To transform your consciousness into a prison of doubt where you no longer trust your thoughts, memories, or feelings. The narcissist denies events with such absolute conviction that even reality itself begins to feel fragile and porous. They twist your words with mastery, they reframe your intentions, and while doing all of this, they fabricate complex stories behind a perfectly sincere mask. Their purpose is to create so much inner chaos and so much cognitive dissonance that your natural inner leadership collapses under pressure. This war reaches its deepest level when it becomes a war against your intuition. Your intuition is the skill that led you to this awakening. The narcissist instinctively understands that as long as you trust this inner compass, you will always find your way out of the fog they create. So the compass must be broken. Every tactic in their campaign is designed to convince you that your intuition is not a source of wisdom, but a source of paranoia. This internal assault is almost always paired with an external maneuver, the creation of a distorted social consensus. The narcissist begins pulling others into their story. This is an extension of a powerful psychological mechanism called projective identification. They spread the chaos inside them outward and force you to become the living embodiment of that chaos. To strengthen this narrative, they subconsciously recruit friends, family, and colleagues to act as reality police. You are portrayed as unstable, vindictive, or emotionally disturbed. Meanwhile, they play the role of the loyal, worried, long-suffering victim. This creates deep and painful isolation, a sense that in a world that has accepted their fiction as truth, you are the lone dissenter. But when this psychological assault fails, when you refuse to abandon the territory of your own mind, the narcissist is forced to accept that they have lost the war for your consciousness. At that moment, their tactics shift. They move from trying to control your mind to attempting to control your reputation. This is where their final phase begins, the Scorched Earth campaign. A smear campaign is not just slander. It is a full-scale ritual of social excommunication. A desperate narrative war born from terror. The narcissist knows what you know. They know the truth of their emptiness and manipulation. This awareness makes you a living, breathing, existential threat. You are the mirror reflecting their broken self. And they must shatter that mirror in the eyes of the world before you can show anyone what you've seen. The mechanism of this character assassination is ruthless. They scan the entire history of your relationship and collect anything they can twist into a weapon. Secrets you entrusted to them in your most vulnerable moments are revealed and distorted to serve their story. Your authentic reactions to their abuse are presented as evidence of your instability. Piece by piece, they construct a massive puppet version of you. A portrait so distorted it becomes fiction, yet so familiar that even people who barely know you may find it believable. This is one of the narcissist's most powerful weapons. A mask of compassion used to inflict maximum harm. The ultimate goal of this campaign is your complete social and emotional isolation. It is a ritual designed to exile you, to brand you as the bad one, and to leave you wandering a social desert alone. The narcissist wants you to believe that everyone has turned against you and that their version of events is the only version that exists. But this brutal trial becomes an unbreakable test for every relationship in your life. The fire of the smear campaign, designed to destroy you, burns away every false, superficial, and conditional connection. And in the ashes, you are left with a small, unshakable group who refuse to believe the lies, trust their intuition, and stand with you. This external attack is designed to shatter your spirit completely. But when it fails, when you find strength in your solitude or in the loyalty of just a few, the narcissist is forced to make a radical, almost unbelievable shift. They switch from total war to unconditional surrender and seductive charm. This is the moment they deploy their most shocking and manipulative weapon. They abruptly halt the aggression and begin an intense love-bombing campaign. They shift from devaluing you to loving you, from cruelty to seduction. This is the hoovering tactic, designed to pull you back into the vortex of the toxic relationship. It is not sincere remorse. It is not a desire for reconciliation. Hoovering is a beautifully decorated trap, a set of promises and apologies designed to test the strength of your boundaries. Hoovering can take many forms, all tailored to your past vulnerabilities. It may appear as a sudden wave of affection that reminds you of the passionate early days of the relationship. Or it may come in the form of future faking, painting an ideal future together. Sometimes it takes the shape of a manufactured crisis. You may receive a message suggesting illness or financial ruin, crafted specifically to trigger your empathy, compassion, and natural desire to help and heal. The narcissist knows how quickly old power dynamics can be restored. But beneath all of these different approaches lies one unchanging motivation. They do not miss the sovereign person you're becoming. They miss the supply you once provided. The reflection, the emotional energy, the stability you brought to their chaotic inner world. You were a source, and the source was cut off. Hoovering is the attempt to reconnect that fuel line. Resisting hoovering is the greatest test of your newfound sovereignty. It is the moment you must consciously choose the sacred, difficult, sometimes lonely path of your own truth over the seductive familiarity of their illusion. When every manipulation tactic has failed, the narcissist becomes truly cornered. What remains is their most primitive essence. This is their final war. This is not strategy anymore. It is pure narcissistic rage, a volcanic eruption known as an extinction burst. In behavioral psychology, an extinction burst is the inevitable surge of aggression that occurs when a once rewarded behavior is suddenly and permanently denied. Your emotional reactions were their psychological currency. By refusing to provide that currency, you force them into a catastrophic psychological bankruptcy. This final rage is a desperate attempt to break you with overwhelming force, to shock you, terrify you, and drive you back into submission. This is not normal anger. Narcissistic rage is a primitive reptilian response to a direct threat against their fragile, grandiose, and entirely false sense of self. Its only destructive purpose is to annihilate the source of the psychological wound, the conscious, aware, sovereign version of you that exists today. In this final battle, the mask does not simply fall off. It is burned away entirely. The charming, clever, wounded persona they once projected disappears in an instant. What replaces it is a cold, terrifying emptiness in their eyes. You are no longer facing a complex personality, but a raw, undifferentiated id, a vortex of chaotic and destructive energy. The extinction burst has two goals: absolute punishment and terror-based recapture. But the deepest alchemy of your journey happens in the center of this storm. To witness this final display of horror and meet it not with fear but with the steady stillness of a mountain overlooking a storm, that is to render it powerless. Your lack of reaction is the undeniable proof that they hold no meaning in your emotional world anymore. Deprived of the oxygen of your fear and emotional investment, their fire has nowhere to go and must extinguish itself. The silence that follows this final storm is the most powerful sound you will ever hear in your life. It is the sound of reclaimed power. It is the highest form of shadow integration, psychological manipulation, smearing, seduction, and finally rage. These forced you not only to confront their shadow, but your own power, your righteous anger, and your non-negotiable right to exist. You learned that true peace is not passive avoidance, but strong, focused, conscious stillness. You did not merely escape a toxic relationship. You experienced a profound psychological rebirth. You faced the dragon and discovered its fire was only a reflection. And the true source of light and power was always within you. You are a lens that focuses the radiant light of your own truth. You are now the carrier of a rare and precious light, a light made stronger and more determined by the presence of absolute shadow. Move forward not in fear of the shadow's return, but with the silent, majestic, world-shifting power of your awakened light. The game is finally over. Not because you played better, not because you won, but because you realized with absolute clarity that you were never a piece in the game at all. You were always the entire board. This video showed the three-phase psychological attack that begins when a narcissist's mask falls, and that the only true victory in this war is unshakable sovereignty. If this knowledge has given you the power to name your chaotic experience, I ask one thing from you. In the comments below, write this forward intention that declares you are no longer a pawn in their manipulation, but the architect of your own truth. My truth is unshakable. Seal your psychological autonomy with this declaration. And don't forget to subscribe to the MindSnap YouTube channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our deep videos on breaking toxic cycles, recognizing psychological manipulation, and achieving emotional freedom. Remember, the greatest revenge is silent, unshakable peace.